Jerome Corsi, during the break when I got him online here to be a guest, dropped a big bombshell on me. He has got it narrowed down to even who needs to be looked at concerning this birth certificate. This is obviously bombshell stuff. We've got Bob Chapman coming up. Doc could even do an hour with us, but I don't want to keep short shrifting Bob Chapman. But I definitely want to get Dr. Corsi back up next week as well. But for those that just joined us, in the last 3 years, I've looked at the birth certificate thing. I found it curious that they spent over $2 million now blocking the release of the long form. They had Chris Matthews and others with talking points say there is no long form. It doesn't exist, that the receipt was the long form. Then, responding to Dr. Corsi's book a month ago, ahead of its publication, Where is the Birth Certificate, that I have here in my hot little hand. Obama comes out, obviously, with the press conference. We have a new video out breaking this down. Bombshell, new birth certificate, a forgery. That's up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com and up on the Alex Jones channel. And it basically encapsulates the latest developments. But now I'm getting even more sure that they're running scared and that the research of Dr. Corsi and others is spot on. Now, Dr. Corsi's been to Kenya. He's traveled all over, Hawaii, you name it, really trying to get to the bottom of this. And just a year ago or 6 months ago, he wasn't sure. He just said, clearly there's evidence of a cover-up, so we need to look at it. But now he's coming out and saying that he's sure it's a composite of other real birth certificates, that he now is getting hot on the trail of who he believes may know something about where this newest birth certificate came from. We have the headline from yesterday, Birther Bombshell, Corsi to release evidence proving Obama certificate a fraud composite. But then 2 days ago, we see Esquire come out and run a headline breaking in their politics section, not their humor section, Jerome Corsi's birther book pulled from shelves. Now, that's obviously done to create the perception it's discredited by the publisher. So people have runs on the bookstores and say, I want my money back. So they get scared and pull the book. It is extreme economic espionage. Then 5-6 hours after it's published, they come out at the bottom and bury in a paragraph, this was satire, when clearly it was put out to damage them. And WorldNet Daily Books, Dr. Jerome Corsi, Joseph Farah. This shows desperate concern by the White House and their known surrogate, Esquire. The same day, the White House said they're going to run on the birth certificate with coffee cups and T-shirts with the slogan, Made in America, with Barack Obama on it, with a copy of the new fake birth certificate. Now, we've looked at it. We're going to go over why it's fake, how it's a composite, the total proof, and more. And the fact that they blinked, Dr. Corsi and others, smoked them out of their holes, and the president blinked. Dr. Corsi, this gets crazier and crazier by the minute. Thank you for joining us.
Well, great to be with you, Alex. And I've never in my life seen the White House attack and attempt to suppress or censor a book as strong as mine. I mean, now the Democratic National Party and the President's Re-election Committee are sending out this letter soliciting funds. They mention me by name in the first sentence and vilify the book. They even sent the letter to me, addressing me to give them funds. Of course, I sent them some money and got a mug. I mean, it's ridiculous. This type of attempt to suppress a book is counter to the First Amendment, and what it shows is that the information in this book, I've said this from the beginning, the White House, the Obama administration, they will not survive if the American people read what's in this book and understand it.
Well, you're absolutely right. Where do you want to start? Let's start with a recap of the old birth certificate they claimed was the original and no other long form existed. Then they flip-flop there. Now we've the proof that this new one is a joke-level fraud.
Joke-level fraud. And, I want to make 2 points, Alex. First of all, if this new long-form birth certificate existed, why wasn't it released 3 years ago? Why don't we have this instead of the short form certificate of live birth? And Alex, I got a call about 3 weeks before it was released from one of my sources in Hawaii, and I was told that the new long form birth certificate had been forged. It had been slipped into the logbook. We actually had somebody go into the logbook and read it to us. I knew it said Kapiolani. I knew it said Dr. Sinclair. And I documented all that with Joseph Farah in an email. And I said we better get out front and say that it's likely to be a forgery. But we all decided, hey, this is great. If the book smokes out Obama and, you know, they blink, they feel fear, they have to respond to try to destroy the book, now we've got Barack Obama personally committed, coming to the press room saying, this is my birth certificate.
This is like Nixon coming out and lying in the press conference and saying that he wasn't involved in the break-in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And now the White House is committed to this document. They can't say, oh, no, we meant the other birth certificate. If this document proves to be falsified, the Obama administration of necessity comes to an end because they tried to preserve the administration with a criminal fraud.
All right, let me stop you for a moment. You mentioned the fact that why didn't they bring this out 3 years ago and say that no long form existed? Why did Abercrombie get into office, the new governor of Hawaii, and say, I'm going to go down there and release it, and then tell two newspapers, as you reported, but mainline papers there in Hawaii, that I looked for it and couldn't find it. This is, quote, going to be a problem in the upcoming election. And then magically, it does pop up, and you've got moles inside of there, because you've already been there snooping around, that told you, hey, guess what, Dr. Corsi, it looks like I Dream of Jeannie, made it appear in there.
Well, and, I think the falsification occurred between the time when Abercrombie could not find any evidence of a long-form birth certificate, and we had that Michael Evans come out and say so, the celebrity reporter from Hollywood, saying he talked to Abercrombie, and Abercrombie could not find the long form. That's when the forgers started to work seriously, knowing my book was coming out. And by the way, Donald Trump, I discount. I'm completely convinced at this point Donald Trump was subterfuge, that he called me 2 or 3 times, got me to give him a copy of the book in advance. I'm convinced Donald Trump was, through Mike Cohen, it seems to be 50-50 working with Obama. They were close to Schumer. So Donald Trump says, let's beat the drums big, then you release the birth certificate. I'll say satisfies me. The press will go to sleep, and I'll get my new $60 million contract.
Well, I'll tell you the dead ringer. He'll get his new $60 million NBC contract.
Which is GE.
Which got bailout money and Rachel Maddow and all of them. But expanding, here's the dead ringer. The 2 days after he's, quote, discredited by Obama, he goes into a cussing tirade. He's a very shrewd guy, meant to further plunge him in the numbers and to further discredit.
Right. And by the way, I'm going to watch very carefully and see if Donald Trump pops up to build the casinos in Chicago. Now that Rahm Emanuel's there, another tall building in Chicago. I'll be there investigating the connections with the White House and what deals, wink, wink, went back how far. I don't trust it at all.
You don't trust a guy that owns a bunch of casinos? Everybody knows those are the good guys.
Look, I also want to show you, we found, have you focused on the stamp of the Alvin Onaka stamp? I want just a quick, simple way to show people how comical this fraud is. I showed that the stamp, state registrar stamp, has a misspelling in it. Instead of the record, it's TXE record. Now, nobody uses a stamp with a misspelling in it. And then if you blow up to about 800% and look at the signature, Alvin T. Onaka, in the A, there is a smiley face. Now, I assure you, I've looked, Alex, at hundreds of Alvin Onaka signatures and 100 stamps. None of them have a misspelling, TXE, and none of them have a smiley face in the A.
But, sir, that's my next point, is that they took it and put it on this green paper. The AP's put out 2 different versions that don't have the green hash paper. You've got the situation where it's clearly a computer copying a typewriter, but we already knew that and said that 3 weeks ago in our video with 700,000 views on YouTube, because you can blow up the pixelation of the typewriter print, and the pixelation of the same letters is identical That's impossible with a typewriter because every new strike is like a snowflake or a fingerprint because it's how hard you hit the key, how it strikes the ribbon, the position of the paper. There's little, when it's blown up, microscopic ink blobs around it. You can't have identical same letters. That is only done by a computer that's designed to have fonts that look like typewriters.
Well, and, when the administration will not show the original. 1961, there weren't any computers. Where's the original paper birth certificate, if it exists, submitted to forensic analysis? I was in Hawaii last week. I went to see it. No one in the Hawaii Department of Health would talk to me. I went over to Kapiolani Hospital. I said, okay, if Ann Dunham was here, I'd like to see the patient records for Ann Dunham. I've known for years they don't exist. Ann Dunham was never a patient in that hospital. The hospital threatened if I didn't vacate the premises, they would call the police. Now, if I were administrator of that hospital, I'd have a little shrine in the front celebrating that this was the birth hospital of the president instead of continuing the cover-up by refusing to answer any questions or providing to the public the corroborating evidence that Ann Dunham had been in that hospital to give birth to Barack Obama.
Let's look at the computer manipulation of the text. You had an article at WorldNet Daily about that.
Yes, well, when you take a look at the text of this thing and you blow it up, first of all, I mean, you can even start with the number on the upper right, the 10641, which, by the way, is an out-of-sequence number and impossible. When you blow it up and look at it, the 1 is clearly a JPEG, a photograph dropped in there, and the pixelization around the 1 shows the attempt to not repair it very well, so it's still obvious. Whoever did that did not understand how to repixelate. And it's clear that the 1 is a JPEG and the rest of the number is not. Now, 10641 is impossible to be Barack Obama's birth certificate number. Obama was registered on August 8th, and when he was registered on August 8th, the number was stamped with an old one of the increment by number counters, 10641. The Nordyke twins were born a day later in the hospital, August 5th. They were registered 3 days later, August 11th, and they were given numbers 10637 and 10638. It's impossible because that counter does not reverse, and 3 days earlier registered, Obama would have had to have a lower number, maybe by 20, from the Nordyke twins. So the number itself, going back to the short form, was fraudulently, they miscalculated, they got the wrong number, they were stuck with that number, so the number is also wrong in the long form birth certificate.
And then there's not the proper stamp that all the others have. I mean, there's over 50...
no seal.
No seal.
No seal.
Then here's the $64 million question. Why did they put out such a clearly shoddy version? Not just the layers, because you do have some layering in these different computer programs like Illustrator, but what the computer then witnesses is if the computer sees the 6, 7, 8, 9 different layers, it sees the manipulation and then automatically sorts it. The biggest issue here, and what all the Photoshop people in my office and outside groups have pointed out, is that normally with a scan you would have one gradient of pixelation. Instead,
correct,
it is a cornucopia of different areas with high res over low res. I mean, this, I don't believe that they could be this shoddy is what I'm saying.
Well, I think, Alex, if you're the president and you want to forge your birth certificate, you can't put out a request for proposal and get the best guy in the country to come do the job. They were stuck with the guys who were close to them. And I'm pretty well on the trail of linking the characteristics of this document to someone who's going to have a lot of explaining to do. And I think when you see what I'm about to point out next week, we're hot in the trail of somebody who may have had a hand in this.
Now, Dr. Corsi, let me just stop you there because you offered during the break, you said, I think I may break who this person is on your show. And I was like, first tell us some of the proof and take us on the trail close to the person of interest.
I'm just going to give you the hints because I don't want to give it too far away, but there are characteristics in the long-form birth certificate as it's released and in the work of another person where signature items were put into the certificate of live birth to identify the forger. And the forger is someone who does not work in government. He works in the media and is close to the administration. and would have been within the circle of friends that may have been called on to do the forgery or participate in the forgery.